Can I kick it? Can I kick it?
Maybe hang on the couch for a minute. How you been? What's up? How's it living? I wanna know, man.
Can I kick it?
Big thoughts, little talk, get in it. What it was, what it is, where it's headed.
Hey guys, welcome to Can I Kick It? It's your host, Alex Ray. This is episode 21 or 2, Chris? I don't know, 21 and a half. And we're sitting here with Tyler Hardwick from Conscious Creative Effort Studios here in Lagodi, Indiana. How are you, man?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. It was nice to get out of Vincent's and come to you.
A little change of scenery.
Yeah, well, it was nice to just get out and feel like the podcast is making some strides towards getting out there. I mean, that was the goal in the beginning, really, was to get out there and do something with life. And that's a theme that you guys could definitely concur with, right? I mean,
right. We try to do the exact same sort of thing. Try to branch out a little bit more.
Network.
Get outside your own little circle.
Yeah. What can you tell me about, like, how long you guys been around?
So we've had this studio here for going on 4 years. Prior to that, we spent about like 10 years or so over in the Washington area.
Okay.
For the longest time, those are the only people that I knew. It's only been probably in the past 4 years.
How many guys are we talking about here? Like, I'm sure it's ever growing.
It's mostly like our core band. Like, we were based out of Washington. And then...
for the listeners, what band is that?
There's a band called Spectre out of Washington, Indiana.
The link will be right here. So, yeah, Spectre included who? Who was all
that? Was me, Ryan Barber, a guy named Brandon Humphreys.
Okay.
We've had some different bass players over the year. One of them was Alex Blanton.
Oh, okay.
Guy, Ethan Chambers.
Now, Alex is in...
named Andrew Cooper.
Alex is in a band with Kendall right now, right?
I don't... There's another Alex that's in.
Oh, okay. My fault.
But Alex Blanton, really, really phenomenal guitarist. He's coming here and he does like some session stuff for us every now and again.
Okay.
Some really cool guitar solos and other shit.
Now, here at the studio, you guys offer professional services, right?
Mm-hmm.
For recording? Mm-hmm. Okay. What names have you had in here in the past in the studio? Anybody I would know?
We've had Damian Baker in here.
Yeah, well known.
Really cool cat out of Washington. We've had Breathing Room. And if you don't recognize that name, it's like Steve Wagler, Justin Sinney, Joel Norris, Jeff Lockhold. A lot of those guys played in various bands over the years. So there's probably a lot of people that might recognize at least one of those names.
Those are the guys I do know.
Yeah.
But that's because of Ian Graves, who's also a singer. Like, we've got a talented group of friends, and then, especially in Vincent's, we do. And then I start branching out over into Lagodi and find out there's sort of an overlap. Now, this is a theme that I've been seeing over the years, is like certain musicians of Vincent's will know ones in Lagodi. The ones in Lagodi know a guy in Olney. And so it's organically grown to a point where now we're doing podcasts. You guys also have a podcast, right?
Yeah, we do the Conscious Effort podcast. Used to be just audio only, and then here recently we got back into doing like a video version of it. We can have guests on and we can like visually show a little bit more what they do.
I watched a little bit of it. It was interesting. I watched a couple episodes, and you guys have a totally different approach to that than we do, it was cool to get a little bit of perspective on, like, what do you think drove you guys into? I made it sound like you got drove into addiction or something, but like,
so like what drove you?
what drove you to the lowly art of podcasting?
This crazy idea to get in this idea.
What an idiot! Yeah. No, but like, can you tell us a little about the formation of Conscious Effort, where the name came from?
So, actually, I'll tell you where the name came from. It came from a gentleman named Jeff Chambers.
Okay.
Was a guy. He was very kind to us, gave us a space for many years to play music and record music and learn how to put songs together. And he had a band. It was called the Conscious Effort Band. And that was...
Is this an older guy?
Yeah, older gentleman.
Sort of a mentor.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. That's a very good way to think of it. And that concept of making a conscious effort to always do better and make progress was something he always hammered home a lot. And so in homage to that, we took on the name Conscious Effort Creative.
Cool.
And we kind of had a similar goal, like you were saying. I started out by talking about how I used to play in Washington for many, many years. I knew a bunch of musicians over there, but I was originally from Lagodi, and I didn't know any musicians in Lagodi. I didn't know any of the people in my own backyard.
But they were here.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I started hanging out at Bradley's, and they would have like the jams and bands that come in and play, that I realized there's a lot of people here that were really talented that I never knew about.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, but at the same time, I was really kind of disappointed that those people were here the whole time and I never knew about
Wasted time, you know?
So our goal was to try to be a facilitator to get other people in connection with other people and help people find out more about all this stuff that goes on that people don't know unless you know that person personally.
It's interesting, the age gap. Like, me and Big D were talking about this, actually, and Big D's come here quite a bit to play at Bradley's, I believe. Mm-hmm. But there's, like, you have, like, your old heads, the people that used to jam back in the 70s, 80s, and well, the 90s is way far back now. But you guys are also, like, facilitating for some younger guys, like Kendall Bratton. Mm-hmm. He's a good friend of mine. I think he's an impressive musician and a good person. And he's way younger than you and I, right? How old are you?
I'm going to be 30 this year.
Yeah, see, I'll be 34 in like 4 days on St. Patty's Day.
Well, happy early birthday.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. I don't even drink anymore, so that holiday's gone to shit.
Crazy Pisces.
Plus, it's on a Wednesday. Yeah, I am. You know what? Something crazy about me, not that this interview is about me.
Scorpio, so.
Oh, yeah. So we can sync up there. But I'm a double Pisces. Triple if you count Venus, because I was born on a solar eclipse.
See, Kyla's a triple Pisces. We call her the Spicy Pisces.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Kyla?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think me and her talked about that on Facebook before, your girlfriend.
You two should probably not be in the same room. You might open up a portal or something.
Emotional.
All these planets align.
Yeah.
Emotions start pouring out.
My sun and moon sign are both Pisces, and then my Venus sign is Pisces, and my rising sign is Leo. I'm sure people are watching this that don't know astrology, like, what the fuck?
Anybody that is going to be like, oh, that's interesting.
Look at these dirty hippies.
So you must have been born on this date. And
triangulate it. Yeah. So back to my point, though. Sorry, I got on a tangent. But, Kendall's really young, so you guys are doing what I want to do. So I think by linking up with, us here and the people over in Vincent, including Chris Lucas and I had out to lunch, and the Bruised Orange gang that are throwing concerts, anybody that sees this podcast, get a hold of either of us. We're trying to build a spidery network, as Tyler put it earlier, like a spider web, so that no matter which town you go to, you have a venue to play. There's
some connection somewhere. It's like that 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but like the local version.
6 degrees.
Is it 6 degrees? 7 degrees?
6 degrees of separation.
However many degrees of Kevin Bacon, somewhere or another, you know somebody in the other town that does something cool.
Yeah. And it's really amazing how it's all been working out. And the podcast thing, like we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast is really less about the podcast and more about the networking. Or at least it is for me.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a ball of tape that rolls down a dirty hill, picking up. Maybe that's not the best metaphor.
Catching everything else.
Yeah, but it's just a snowball. Maybe it should be a snowball. So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about like how this place came to formation? Like, you actually have a building to rent? I mean, was it, by which I mean, there was a group effort. Somebody had to pay the bills, right?
It was kind of like a happy accident. So, my buddy Ryan, who's the engineer here, he had just moved to Lagodi, and through some friends, we were talking about this idea that it'd be cool to have a place where you set up everything and be able to work with other people and record stuff and make things and whatnot. And they said like, oh hey, have you talked to these other people? Because like they rent a space there and like they're wanting somebody to move in next door and use it for something like that.
Because it's just a wasted space.
Yeah, at that time, that's when...
There's tons of these places in all of our small towns.
Exactly, yeah. The Breathing Room guys used to rehearse over on the space next door. And so we took over this side, and it was just a completely bare room, and just started moving stuff in, fleshing it out. So one side was like a rehearsal space, and there were some guys that did live sound and sorted the equipment over there, and then we did all the recording stuff over here. But yeah, just total happy accident, like meeting people.
So everybody just started like... assimilating gear.
It's kind of like
drums and
it's like in outer space. Enough dust gets close to one another and it just starts clumping together.
A vacuum.
Before you know it, it turns into something.
What projects have come out of here? We talked about Damian Baker. We talked about now you were in the group Spectre.
Yes.
Right? And that is available on Spotify, by the way, and I'll put the link in the description box. But can you tell us a little bit about the formation of your own individual group, the Spectre?
Oh, so that's a story that kind of goes back like 12 years. So I I was still in high school. I was going into my senior year, and I umpired baseball. And there was a guy there that coached one of the teams that used to be in pro wrestling.
Whoa.
And
okay.
So he had gotten back in to the indie wrestling scene, and through baseball, he got me playing a gig, doing the national anthem to kickstart the
triple
indie wrestling.
curriculars, you know?
Yeah,
Extracurriculars, yeah.
So I was a baseball umpire, and then through him, I got a gig playing the national anthem for these indie wrestling shows. Through that, one of the
Guitar?
wrestlers. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Jimi Hendrix.
That's dope,
Willie
yeah.
Anderson and yada, yada.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly. And one of the wrestlers had a brother that had just gotten out of the military, coming back home, and their family played music for years, and he was wanting to put a band together. So he gave him my name, and it was a guy named Scott Gilly, and they called me one day and wanted to know if I was interested in playing a band.
It's always interesting when a band forms with people who don't even know each other at first.
Yeah.
I always thought that because I've thought about doing that, putting out auditions so I could be a singer for a group, but it never. I mean,
and you were talking about like the age difference and whatnot.
Right.
Like, I was 17 at the time. I was going to my senior year in high school, and these guys had like been to the military and come back.
Yeah,
They're in their
yeah.
20s, and they're like, "Hey, you know, playing a band."
You're gonna learn something here.
Yeah, and for some crazy reason, they let me try out, and they liked me, and they let me play in the band. So we started this group. We called ourselves the Amber Lamps,
Oh, that's cool.
which is kind of
Interesting.
it was based off a joke. Like that, there was some meme at the time going around on YouTube, and it's like, "Oh, quick, somebody call Amber Lamps," but it's like some redneck trying to say ambulance.
Amber lamps.
Yeah, but we call it like Amber Lamps because there was an amber-colored lamp there in the studio also.
Ah.
We have a long history of naming shit after just
I thought it
whatever
was
sitting next
like
to us.
the opposite of a red light district or so. I don't know. Anyway.
No, but that's a much more clever backstory
something
than
like
us. Yeah.
Like, this is where the women go on dates with you and you pay them. No, I don't know.
No,
Anyway.
this is just complete mispronunciation.
Yeah. So what kind of tunes did you guys get into? I mean,
So we played a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers and a lot of 311.
fuck yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a big part of our set list.
Dude, I've been saying this lately. I'd really like to see a ska renaissance. Not only in mainstream
I
culture,
used to
but
play
in
trumpet.
our area.
I was a trumpet
You
player.
know, there's this kid named Keenan Delph. I don't know
Yeah.
if you know him. He works with Tyler Bynum and Jimmy Wilkins.
Yeah, I've jammed with him.
I just went and hung out with them for the first time a couple weeks ago. As a matter of fact, on April the 3rd, they're coming on the podcast. Their band's called Way Down. But anyway, they're kind of into some reggae, ska type / R&B, rock and roll stuff.
Yeah,
and
I've seen him play.
It's fucking
dude.
cool. Oh, he's got a great voice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful voice. It makes me envious, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I tried to jam with them and like freestyle, and it was just like, okay,
You listen to somebody
I know
that
my
can do that,
spot.
and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. I could play so much more music.
Yeah, you know how sometimes you're actually pretty decent. You've been working on something musically, and then you get around certain people, and my cousin was a famous stand-up bass player that traveled with like Jacob Dylan, and he lives in Vincennes. But whenever we go to the family gatherings, I would show up with my little mandolin and a guitar, thinking I'm gonna jam with my cousin, and then he starts going to town on his banjo or his stand-up bass or whatever, and it's just like, all right, I'm an observer now.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm just gonna back up into this corner.
Yeah,
here.
you got to know. You got to know when to back the fuck
That's
off.
when you
and-
slowly start rolling down your volume knob. And you just
yeah.
fade
Have you ever
away.
done that on stage where you're just having a bad night and you're just like, okay.
You notice like there's something here that's not right.
Yeah. And it's me.
Yeah. Or you're trying to figure out like, is that note me or is that somebody else?
Where's that fucking buzzing coming from? Yeah.
It's always a damn G string.
Yeah. I always have
Hardest
problems
one to
with.
keep in tune.
I always have problems with the B string for some reason. Well, it's not on my mandolin, but yeah.
You'll have that.
The thing about mandolin that's interesting is like it's a guitar backwards missing the B and the E. So from the bottom up, if you're holding it, it's E A D G.
Okay.
But there's double strings, you know. So I've found that most guitar players don't know it, but they can play a mandolin.
You said EADG?
Yep.
Oh, so it's actually tuned like
it's backwards, yeah.
Huh.
From the bottom up, you know, as opposed to a guitar, it's E A D G B E, which I learned by this acronym. Every adult deserves goodness but Ed, because my dad's name is Ed.
I always heard
Right,
every
Pops?
ass does guitar by ear.
Ah,
That's what my dad told me once, and that's how I always remember.
that'll keep you in line.
Yeah.
So
Although I do
Spectre.
everything by ear, so I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm doing it wrong.
I know I stay away from theory, man. But then again, I'm not a practicing musician really. I play
So,
at home and stuff.
The
but-
thing with theory, like my advice to somebody now would be like learn all the theory you can and then stop thinking about it. Yeah. Because like I know all the theory. Like we didn't have a theory class when I was in high school, but
we didn't either.
The band director was very kind to me, so she directed me towards the books, like bought them myself, and she had the teacher's book or whatever. And I went through like the 3 books of it, and you can learn a lot of stuff, but if you're not careful and you start thinking about it while you're trying to do it, and you let that dictate what you do, you'll get yourself kind of closed into a box.
Robotic.
So it's great to know like what you're doing afterward. Like if you're trying to explain to somebody this is what this chord is, but I would never tell somebody to like use theory to write a song. Like your ears will tell you whether it sounds good.
Yeah, that's true.
Or like if you're trying to tell somebody else like this is what this chord is.
Yeah, theory doesn't make music sound good. It kind of confirms why it sounds good.
It's like the vocabulary, like the language.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm happy, I know I'm sad. The theory is like how you put that into words to tell somebody else.
That's interesting because grammar is important. It really is to keep it's the glue or the fabric of the language. But some of my favorite literature has terrible grammar, like Jack Kerouac. You know, hardly uses a punctuation at all.
Or like Mark Twain, where it's just like one page is one whole run-on sentence.
Yeah, I love that shit. And you know, that's jazz basically, right? I mean, or blues, or you know, it's basically taking small errors and like correcting them.
I'll tell you the weird thing about jazz. For years, I never got it, and my director once told me jazz is less of like a series of chords and more just like a series of keys. And one day I finally got that.
Okay, macroscopic.
Yeah, it's like will change. They'll keep like one chord shape, and instead of changing like chords, they'll just change the whole key, and that's why jazz kind of is this feeling like it's always leaning over on one foot. It's like it's always about ready to fall over. It's like Bud Light. Jazz is constantly falling with style.
It's like a balancing act.
Yeah, and it just keeps moving so it never falls on its forehead.
That's interesting. I never thought about jazz as like a step out, like a bigger picture of a sheet of music. You know, it's that's cool, man. So Spectre's more like rock and roll, really, right? Like hard driving rock and roll.
I call it like heavy rock because it's not like metal. But I feel like if I say it's hard rock,
like Chevelle, kind of in that neighborhood.
I don't know enough.
Or Tool.
Yeah, I've heard people say it kind of reminds them of Tool.
I thought, dude. I mean, I don't want to sound like everybody else, but it does have. It doesn't. It's not in a contrived way either. It's not like you guys were trying to sound like Tool. It sounds like that's just where you arrived at. And is that how you felt in the band? You felt like you arrived there naturally at the sound, or?
I mean, I'm a big fan of the band, but whenever I write stuff, that's usually when I'm not listening to music. I purposely try to not listen to music while I'm writing a bunch of stuff for that reason. Yeah. Whether it's like Tool or if it's like death metal or jazz or electronic, I like things from all that stuff. But when I get an idea for something, I try not to like go listen to it because I'm afraid I'll just end up steering that direction. I try to just kind of let your ear tell you where to go next. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I play completely, but I can't ever repeat the performance again.
Yeah.
Which sucks. But
makes each performance, though, kind of unique and
special. Oh, it is. Yeah. You know, and there are times when you're like at a party with your buddies and you start freestyling or something and just making something up, and even more so when I was drinking. You know, and you'll never repeat that again. You're lucky. You're lucky to even have recorded it, really. Yeah. And sometimes, those are some of my most cherished recordings. So where's Spectre at now? Are you guys still doing business?
Not a full band right now. Right. We're in the process of finishing up an album that was started a couple years ago. Actually, it started before I started playing with Damian Baker. Okay. And it kind of got put on the shelf because I was very busy playing a lot of shows.
So it wasn't like dissolved officially or anything?
Yeah, it's not like, it's still alive. It's just, it's like growing, right? It's a little embryo and trying to finish up this new music here. And I think it's going to sound really, really cool once it's out. It's just a matter of putting the final puzzle pieces together in place.
Yeah, man, we were talking about that kind of earlier, which is an interesting subject. You were talking about, you know, when somebody comes into the studio and they finish the recording, right, and you guys help them master it, and then they come back and they're like, hey, do you have like graphics? Or I was wondering if you could tell the audience about that. Like we already talked about it.
Yeah, so we were talking about how oftentimes musicians, you get very invested in just the music. Yeah, and you oftentimes like that's the most important thing to you because that's what you do. That's your passion. That's what you love. But when it comes to like releasing stuff, oftentimes you never think about like, oh, I need some pictures. Or, oh, I need a video. I need an advertisement.
Clips.
I need clips or like teasers or something like that. Because oftentimes, like in the past, what we found is you put something out and it goes on Facebook newsfeed, and 4 hours later, it's gone.
Buried in the feed, yeah.
Yeah, but what you want to be able to do is keep it in front of people's face for a month or 2 months or 3 months. Because you're wanting everybody to go find it on Spotify. You
want them to remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like until you do it the first time, you never think of that. You're like, oh shit, like I don't have any like pictures of the band. I don't have like any like graphics or artwork.
Because you're so focused on the music. So is it safe to say, like at least
it's hard to be conscious of that as the musician.
Yeah, that's true. And also music isn't, well, at least in our generation, or in this era even, I'd go far as to say music is not just the music anymore. There's like the art of the album.
Yeah.
You know, like because
you think some of that has gotten lost a little bit over the years, like with less physical stuff? Like,
yeah, I think it's
not
just
having as much physical copies of records.
I think it's gone more the way of like long form. Like okay, as what TikTok is to a full hour podcast, albums are to now. Like if you're even wanting to invest in the artist, you know, a lot of Ian Graves just said not too long ago on Facebook, learn to separate the art from the artist. And at first I was like, nah, Ian, because Ian likes to kind of ruffle feathers sometimes. Yeah. He's a little fucker sometimes.
He likes to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And he's good at it. And you know what? It keeps a party conversation rolling right along. But I thought about that deeply because I figured, he didn't say it, but I figured he's talking about Kanye, right? Kanye West. And I was like, Kanye makes good music. I don't know, maybe it's not for everybody, but dude, he's an artist. You can't argue with the fact that he's an artist. But the crazy shit he does in the public eye, that's what I thought Ian was talking about. So I was like, should we separate the art from the artist? And that brings us back to what me and you were talking about, is how much of an album is just the music? You know, my answer is that I would prefer it if we got back to buying full albums.
I still
like
do go out
vinyls. I do too.
I collect records, and anytime something new comes out, I always like to try to go get a copy of it.
Yeah, I mean, I bought In Rainbow's Radiohead vinyl, and I never opened it. It's still sitting at the house.
I bought that one on CD when it came out years ago.
Yeah, I bought it on CD as well. I was in the Army laying in my bunk. I just finished basic training, and In Rainbows had just come out, and I just got all my money for the first time because we've been in basic training for 10 weeks. And the ceiling was like this far from my face. And so I had to climb up my bunk and like slide in there. And I had I just bought a Discman straight up.
Yep.
And In Rainbows on CD. And then I bought it on vinyl later. But I was laying there, and that transports me back there every time. Do you have any songs or albums or specific music that take you back to a very specific time in your life?
Yeah, there's a record called Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me.
Is that brand new?
By a band called Brand New.
Yeah.
That was one.
I forgot about that album.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite records ever.
Now, the cover of that was the dudes wearing masks standing on the porch,
there's like
right?
a guy that's like there's like a guy that's like in a demon mask and a guy that's in kind of like a ghosty look.
We'll put a picture of that in the
and there's no
on screen.
There's no words or anything on the cover. It's just them standing outside this old house, and there's a little bitty girl standing out there in a coat.
And it says everything, and it looks like they did it in like 30 seconds. You know, they took the picture.
Yeah, there's a whole deal. There's a whole story about like the artist that took that photograph, and they saw it, and they wanted to use that image, and the only way he would let them use it, they could not alter it in any way.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
like when they put that out, I remember buying it. It was just like shrink wrapped, and on the front was just a label that said "Brand New, The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me." No punctuation, nothing, just all like one big run-on sentence.
That's really cool. I'd like to hear that story about what that picture is about, because I have my own conception about what that album cover meant to me. I thought it was about like growing up like in this type of area and being from a really dysfunctional home, and like how a kid when they're small is like super vulnerable to going this way or that. You know, I mean, it's in the title.
I think there's a lot of different like emotional attachments you can draw from that album.
All good art has a lot of different avenues into it, right?
Yeah, and I imagine that's one that probably means different things to different people.
Absolutely. What did it mean to you?
I mean, for me, I was a young teenage kid, and you know, it's right about the time that you first think girls are kind of pretty, and then it's the first time, like, you know, you
thinking about sex,
you get dumped or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is terrible, but I've got this cool new record that I can listen to in my CD player while you stare out the window of the car while it's raining.
So the music's attached to heartbreak, then,
a little bit,
in a way. Yeah.
And like, I listened to that all the time, and I thought, I want to play music now.
Yeah.
That's what's fun. I got to figure out how to play this.
You know what made me want to play music was, well, a few different people, but Jimi Hendrix. Because I was going through such a fucking hard time when I was like 13. I had a lot of trouble with my parents, and I was starting to fuck around with drugs, and I got expelled from school for hash. That's a story for another podcast, but I would sit there and listen to Jimi Hendrix, and it would just transport me. I mean, just gone. You know, I'm not there in that shithole anymore. And I was like, man, I've got to learn how to do that. But then I get my first guitar, and I'm thinking, how the fuck did he do that? Oh my God, I got a Walmart acoustic.
That's something I always wanted to do with music. I wanted to make something that made people, like...
gone.
Yeah. I'm out of this moment.
A rocket ship, baby. Yeah.
Like a good book.
All right, man, we're going to take a break real quick and plug the Electric River Jam. We'll be right back with Tyler Hardwick.
Most middle-aged men go out and buy themselves a sports car. But these guys, against all odds, take up arms in a city full of corruption. You will laugh until you hurt as this bumbling quartet of superheroes get themselves caught up in a web of drugs, crime, and all-around hysteria.
I'm not the bad guy here.
This is the story of 4 middle-aged men that go from zeros to heroes. Midlife crisis coming soon.
Have a nice day, Mr. Puppet.
Hey guys, welcome back to Can I Kick It? We're still sitting here with Tyler Hardwick. And Tyler, we were kind of talking just on the fly really about, some, emotional impacts of albums. And how important would you say the visual component of an album is?
That's a very important thing for me, because I don't know how everybody else is with music, but I tend to remember music based on what it makes me think of, like visually. So like a lot of times when I hear something, it makes me think of like certain scenery or certain kind of images or certain kind of colors. So and a lot of times whatever the album cover is and what color it is and the way it looks, even before I start listening to something, already puts me in a certain kind of mood for like how I think this is going to sound, or like what emotional wormhole I think I'm going to go down.
That's an interesting phrase.
I think it's kind of like a primer for the music.
Yeah, and you would hope that your visual art matches the tone of the music.
Right.
Or juxtaposes it to complement it.
Like a visual representation of the emotions that you're trying to portray to the audience.
Well, one that sticks out to me in particular is Marcy Playground, their first album. I don't know if you ever listened to them, but it's just like this splayed open peach that's in a pentagram, sort of. And when I can just think about that album art and feel the whole album, like in one fell swoop, And that's. But do you think we're kind of losing that with the whole Spotify movement?
I think to some degree, yeah. You don't get the same visual kind of aspect. And like, used to when you bought records, it came with a little insert in it, and you could flip through it
and read the lyrics.
Yeah, it had the lyrics.
Yeah, that was
maybe
that was huge.
Maybe additional artwork or pictures of the band, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I remember I learned. People would always ask me when I was about 13, 14, like, how do you know all these lyrics? You can't even understand what he's saying. Because I used to sit there with that CD thing and the book and read it as it went and really think about it. And that was an important fucking part of music to me, man. Like, to really dive in and analyze what a song was about. Speaking of which, I haven't had much time to like listen to your everything that's come out of this studio or the associated people, but like what's your most important song to you that you've put out, one that you suggest as a first time listen for our followers and watchers?
I'll tell you what, like a favorite one of mine
of Spectre
that came out of here. A favorite one of Spectre?
I guess it could be of any of them, really.
I mean, like a favorite one that came out of here, because the Spectre record we actually did the year before we moved out here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It came out from us, but technically it was not made in this room. But a favorite one that I always go back to is the song Profiteer off of the Breathing Room album, In the Silo.
In the Silo.
Yeah.
Psilo. Yeah. And actually, I'll put a link right here on Tyler's chest. or here. Yeah.
Right over my forehead. Yeah. That's a favorite one for me.
Dude, that's an amazing LP album.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Wagler, huge, amazing musician and songwriter.
I think Justin Sinney sang that one. He's a very
Sinney, Sinney as well. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of Shore, which you could tell.
Yeah, Steve Wagler, I think, sang The Shore.
Yeah, I loved it, man. Wagler just keeps putting out bangers lately, dude.
Yeah. He never stops.
No, he's a machine.
I know he sleeps at some point, but every day or every month it seems like he's got a new song or a new band or a new genre or something.
And a fucking career and
a career.
And all kinds of stuff going on. And moves to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
To sell vacuums. Can you believe that shit?
Mm-hmm. Door-to-door vacuum sales.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
He's killing it though.
Mm-hmm.
That job sucks. Sorry.
It's one of those professions kind of gone by the wayside, you know?
Yeah.
How many good vacuum salesmen you see nowadays? None. Where'd they all go? They went to Albuquerque.
With Bugs Bunny. So we were kind of getting into the Conscious Effort studio here. We'll just go to that because that seems important. What is the end game here, or are you guys where you want to be?
So I don't think we're at where we want to be just yet, but I think we're on the right track there.
Yeah.
So what we had hoped was to be like the center of a spider web. We mentioned that spider web sort of concept earlier, where hopefully someday we could be like center of the web, and people could go there and from us find like a Breathing Room, find a Damian Baker, find Can I Kick It, find everybody else that does cool stuff.
So not just music.
Like the same sort of thing I was talking about. Like I was from right here in Lagodi, but I didn't know anybody that played music in my backyard.
Yeah.
And I wished there was some way that I knew about those people. I wish there was some way I could have found them. And that's what I would hope to be able to make with this sometime.
Can you imagine when you were in high school, because this would have changed everything. And I knew a few people who had this kind of situation, but on a smaller scale. But you're saying make it public, to a certain degree.
Like
a venue where people come to chill, like we used to do at the Roller Dome when I was a kid.
A little bit less like a venue, maybe kind of like a web platform sort of thing. So you could see where like all the bands in the area where they were playing and where they were going to be, and you could find like links to their website or whatever. We've got a web store where we have like a T-shirt of our own. We had the Damian Baker merchandise on there. It could be a platform where all the other local people that make stuff or have merchandise, here's a place you can go find it, because if there's 25 people in a small town, it's a lot harder for those 25 people to build their own website and build their own web store and handle credit cards and stuff like that. But if one person is willing to take hold of that, it can be a bigger platform for all 25 of those people to get their stuff out there.
A collective.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
collective.
And that hence the name, right?
Someone, when we first started, described it as like a magazine where you can go to and you can read about what people are doing or like what they're making, where they were, where they're going to be.
With different art, with different sections of the magazine. I forget what that word is.
That's kind of like when with our podcast, when we rebooted the video version, I started making the covers all like magazine covers.
It looked, I thought that, and I thought that was actually
that was kind of an inspiration.
That was something I noted when I was looking at the website. Also, you guys made your own website.
Yeah.
Can you tell, for people that are out there wanting to start their own thing, can you tell them like how you guys went through that process of making the website, or what's the
think back to those
try to
days.
Streamline it for some people, if you don't mind.
So I don't know that I can really like tell somebody like a streamlined way how to do it, because a lot of me doing it was like trial by fire. It's like jumping in the pool and I'm gonna figure out how to swim.
Did you buy a domain name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So bought a domain name. And then I use Squarespace to like set everything up.
I've heard good things about Squarespace.
Yeah. If you know more about the programming and whatnot, you can do more. For someone like me that That's not what my background.
Not my strong suit either.
And frankly, I don't really have the time to figure out how do I code a web page, and then how do I make a podcast, and there's band rehearsal on this day, and then I got to go record guitar tracks that day, and then I got to edit this day, and so I just went the Squarespace route, and it's worked fine for us so far.
Do you ever feel like by spreading yourself so thin that you're losing out on boldness in certain areas by, if ink were on a paper like letters, like a printing press, and you're spreading the ink out further, the ink is thinner. You
ever heard the meme, like hard to swallow truth or whatever? It's like the meme with the little pill bombs, like hard to swallow truth or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it tells you something that you really don't want to hear.
Yeah.
My dad gave me that one day. I was standing in his kitchen, and it was that time period where I was trying to do like 4 or 5 different things.
Yeah.
And I was trying to like put my hands on a little bit each day. Yeah. And he told me, Tyler, you used to be good at everything that you did, but now you're trying to do too much stuff and you're not good at any of it.
Now you're mediocre at a lot of things.
You used to do things really well, but now you're trying to do too many things and you're not doing any of them as well as what you used to.
Dude, it's really important though, on that same note, in the beginning, but we're getting older now, we should be refining. Well, I mean, realistically we should be, but it's probably not exactly how it's going to happen. But when you're younger, you don't know what you want to dedicate yourself to. And if there's one thing I don't like, for sure, is to get really far in something and then find out this isn't what I thought it was. And then you've not wasted time because you learned something from everything relatively.
Right.
But there's this really good Sylvia Plath quote.
She was a poet.
A poet and a writer.
Okay, yeah.
But I actually found out about this quote from Aziz Ansari's show on Netflix. I can't remember what the hell is the name of that show. Anyway, it's besides the point. But he's talking about Sylvia Plath. One of her excerpts from her book, The Bell Jar, was that she was sitting in the crotch of a fig tree, looking at all these different figs and imagining it. Each fig was like a different path in life. So on this fig, she was a famous writer. On this fig, she went to Europe to be a fashion model. On this fig, she was a teacher, and so on and so forth. And as she sat there deliberating on which fig to pick and eat, they all dried up and withered and fell to the ground and rotted. And whoa.
It's like that analysis paralysis. You sit there for so long trying to decide what to do, and if you're not careful, the moment passes you and you never did anything.
Yeah, it's just tricky though so I try to do a little bit of everything, and if it really doesn't, just reach out and fill that empty hole in the artist's soul, which, man, that's a great feeling when you fucking fill that hole.
Yeah.
And I've found that I'm supposed to be, I don't know for sure, but maybe I'm supposed to be a Renaissance man of sorts. Like, I think a lot of my purpose is, as far as art and music and all this different stuff that Chris and I are doing and that you guys are doing, is that I'm supposed to facilitate other people to be in the spotlight for music.
It's like the point guard in a basketball team. I'm the guy that passed the ball.
Right.
I'm the guy that makes the play.
I'm the arranger.
Somebody has to set up the play and deliver the ball.
Right. And
whereas, like, as I described it to the last guest I had on my show, like, I'm the guy that lobs you softballs to hit them and take batting practice. Like, I'll toss it up and you just swing at it and hit it as far as you can.
Exactly, man. And because of that, I get to experience a lot of different things. You know,
going back to that. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to anyway before I forget it.
Please interrupt.
Going back to that spreading yourself too thin, the best advice I ever heard. There's no such thing as balance. There's just times you do different things well.
Yeah.
You can never do it all. But like you were saying, like there's so many different things you want to do, and sometimes it's really hard to. Like,
there's no absolute balance.
But sometimes this is like priority number one, and I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
And I kind of let everything else, slide side.
Yeah.
And you come back and you pick it up.
Well, and then there's the old like, you got to fall down to get back up. That old paradigm of like, you got to fuck up to really know
you asked
your
me, like,
parameters.
Like how did I set up the website and do all that sort of stuff? Get our stuff on Spotify and the different platforms and whatnot.
Yeah.
I always tell people I was either just bold enough or just naive enough to think I could do it.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea what it was going to take to do it, but for some dumb reason I thought, I think I could probably do
totally
it.
could do this.
Yeah, and every time something went wrong, I never thought like, oh, I tried at that and I failed the first time. I always just thought, okay, well then I just got to figure out how to do that, and then I can get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
But you just keep doing that over and over and over again, and you don't really notice how many times you try things and fail at it. Like you said, you just keep getting back up and you just jump over that rock and go down the road till you run into
You're just moving along.
Yeah.
When I started this podcast, like I was telling you earlier, it was just me and a webcam that I bought at Walmart that didn't even work that well, and a 4 gig RAM computer that I bought off some kid for $120 or something. And
bought it at the skate park, yeah.
Basically a blog. I mean, how many people have a blog, you know?
That was a thing back in the day.
It was huge back in the day.
They all went to Albuquerque with the vacuum set.
Yeah.
You don't find them anymore.
No, well, there's just too many of them, and it seems contrived when you read
Everybody's
one.
got a blog.
But it seems egotistical, and it's not, though. It's not. I don't think that it is. But basically, it was a video blog that I was doing. And just because I tried, because I put that effort out there, somebody talked to him. And then after I talked, he had all this stuff set up, cameras and all this different, you know. And then because of him, other people saw what I was doing, then they want to get involved. Mm-hmm. Now I'm throwing a concert, you know, and the River Jam's coming up in June, on June 11th, by the way, guys. And I'll get some more details on that at the end of the episode. But man, I've got my fingers in so many different pies. Mm-hmm. And I know that you guys do too. And because of that, we've come together. And I just urge people out there, and that's one of the main reasons I started the podcast, just do something, you know, be a part of several different things. Mm. You get to meet interesting people, make lifelong friends.
Interesting, that's one of the nicest compliments. That's a very nice way of saying weird. I appreciate that.
Dude, you're talking to king weird, bro, for real. But yeah, I don't know what, I guess, you know how you're talking about having a mentor earlier? Mm-hmm. Like, now you can be a mentor to somebody. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of corny and like, oh, it makes me feel good.
You don't know how many times, though, I've told Ryan, like, I totally understand how Jeff felt, like, where he'd come out and he'd tell us, like, boys, I love you, but if you're going to be out here, you can't do this. You're going to be out here, you need to make a point to do that. Because we do that same thing with, you know, our younger friends that like to help out. Like, love them. We love that you come in here and you jam and you work on stuff. Yeah. But after you're done, you know, throw the McDonald's bag away.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of stuff. I love you guys. I want you to be here.
So
but I need you to help me a little bit. And they're great about it.
Yeah, it's like a communal spot, man. But like, was it tough to get the bills paid for a while? Or like, how did that?
I mean, it's still,
if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all just out of pocket, and it still mostly is. You know, every now and then you have stretches of time where there's some business coming in, and you can cover a month, 2 months, 3 months, or something like that.
Ebbs and flows and
whatnot. Yeah. But like, especially like music and the art stuff or whatever, it being a very creative sort of endeavor. Mm-hmm. There's never like a formula sort of thing. It's not like if you're a plumber where every day somebody has a leak on a toilet, you gotta work on. It's always...
Which, in turn, keeps it really loose and free.
Yeah, like there's times where there might be like 4 things going on. Right? There might be like 2 people in here recording, you know, different times throughout a month, and then a band rehearsing, and then a podcast going, and then there was a time like we were doing like a short film kind of thing, and then you might have a stretch where for a month there's really nothing going on.
Now, when you start an LLC, which you guys did, right? Mm-hmm. When you start something like that, this is something I'm looking into for a production company to throw concerts and stuff. What all does that entail as far as how much of a risk are you taking with an LLC? Like, how does an LLC fail? Can it fail? Can it go bankrupt? Only if you take out a loan, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got a loan and you got, you know, a lien on like different assets you have and things like that. But the one thing that is nice about the LLC versus the like sole proprietorship is you do have some protection there as an independent entity.
Right. Like, that way you yourself do not go bankrupt.
Not like me. Okay. It's not like Ryan, but we are we're the co-owners of that LLC. Now, the one downside of an LLC versus a corporation is that like a corporation, you can be an employee of the corporation you own. So you can draw like a salary.
Okay.
As an LLC, it doesn't quite work that same way. Like, you have a share of what the LLC makes. So say we make like $1,000, you know, half of that's Ryan and half of that is mine.
Right.
And then like we pay the taxes on that. As a corporation, like the business could make $1 million and the business pays its own taxes, but I as the owner don't pay like $1 million worth of taxes.
To the IRS.
Yeah, because that's why usually when places start to get really, really big and they're making lots of money, mm-hmm. They'll tell you, like, the best advice a lawyer and accountant will tell you is become a corporation, make yourself an employee of that, and you give yourself like a salary.
Oh,
and there's rules with that. You have to give yourself
Right.
a reasonable salary. It's not like defined in any certain terms, but it's just called a reasonable salary. Because then you're not responsible for paying the taxes on every dollar that the corporation makes. The corporation will still pay its own taxes, but you won't get taxed twice.
Yeah, I've thought a lot of times about maybe starting it up all non-for-profit, like
Thought about
Goodwill,
that,
like
yeah.
Goodwill sort of does, and our parent mentor company for throwing the concert was graciously First City Music in Vincennes, and what they've done is they made a 501c3. It's basically, it represents the city in a certain. I don't want to speak for them necessarily, but that's essentially what they did, and they created a scholarship for a friend of theirs that passed away named Evan Twitty, and he died in a car wreck. Amazing young guitarist, and that money, a lot of the money from the proceeds from the events and so on, goes to give a kid a scholarship, whoever qualifies, to go to VU for audio recording or art or different things. And I thought about doing that, but there's this tug of war. Like, do I want to make a lot of money doing this, or am I content living in a smaller house and always being a little bit worried about where the next money's coming from?
I believe you can be an employee of a non-for-profit.
I wonder, because it's worth looking into for sure.
I mean, obviously, you got to pay people to help with things, whether it's
hire staff or
like say like non-profit, like charities, they sell shirts all the time, like Red Cross shirt or stuff like that. Somebody's got to package that stuff, or somebody's got to print it and whatnot. Like, you can pay for that sort of thing. Like, people can work for charities.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And you get paid as an individual, but the company itself can't turn a profit. Like what you were saying,
the corporation,
the money has got to go back out into the
towards a specific destination, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm not the best at business things, but I'm getting better.
I'm not either.
So, man, I know you live in Bloomington. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be? Like, what do you do up there?
One day. So I'm kind of like an architecture nerd.
Oh, are you?
I like a lot of that kind of stuff.
That's really cool.
And I'd always lived in like next to Hayfield or whatever.
Yeah.
And I found this old historical building. It had a cool loft in it, like brick walls and wood floors and whatnot. And was looking to experience something new. Like, always lived in a small town, next to Hayfield, and this was smack downtown, like right off the square. And so I just got a wild hair. Let's go do something. Let's take a hard left turn and just try something totally new.
Yeah. How did that shake out for you?
It's been all right. Probably the hardest thing has been, like, once COVID hit and started working from home a lot.
Yeah.
Paying to park your car every single day. Used to, I didn't have to worry about that.
That will add up.
Oh yeah, it can.
Dude,
I didn't have to worry about that because I was gone at work every day, and I get home and I could park my car for free because it's after hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, working from
When you're home all day,
yeah, like, you got to pay to park.
You almost might be better off buying parking down the road or something. I don't know if that's available in Bloomington necessarily.
Yeah. So when I first got there, the parking garage was right next to me. They'd just torn it down to rebuild a new one. And so I lived there for 2 years, and now they finally just got it up.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, what do you do for a regular job?
For a regular job, I don't really talk about a lot because, like...
Oh, that's right. Okay, my fault.
Per contract, I'm not really supposed to.
Understood. Yeah.
But basically, like, I tell people I go cross-eyed for a living.
Yeah.
Mostly just
surfing.
Yeah, I'm selling a lot of...
That's interesting.
Writing a lot of emails and stuff like that.
So business. What would you like to see how would you like to see your life go in the next couple of years? You have a girlfriend, right?
Nope.
You don't?
Nope.
You're happy though?
I enjoy what I do. Like, I do the stuff I like. I play music, I work out, I've got a small sculpture studio where I do like life casting and stuff like that. So I do the things that I enjoy.
Sculpture?
Yeah. Do life casting. It's where, like, you so it's like mold making, where like, you do like the rubber molds, and you pour stuff in it and make the casting, whatever. Except I take molds like off of real people.
Oh, that's awesome. So how did you get into that?
Another one of those days I just had a wild hair and was like, that'd be cool. Like, I used to work in construction years ago when I first got out of high school, and we did like concrete work and whatnot, and so it's very fulfilling. Like after you get done,
it is. There's a
to be able to
finished
look back and you're
product.
like,
Yeah.
wow, we made that.
Yeah, that's the only thing I liked about
Like
it.
the church out here, like that whole front end, like we did all that. Like I did that sidewalk and helped do like all the steps and everything and the handrail and all that. And like,
Wow.
it's very cool. Every time you drive by, and you're like, oh, I built that damn thing.
Finished.
And,
you know? And it has an end to the project.
Right.
You can move on to something else. That's the theme I'm picking up from you with all your pursuits, is that when you can finish a project and move on to something else that's completely different.
So
I think a lot of people want that, but they just think they're scared.
Somewhere
you know?
down the line, I wanted to kind of do that sort of thing, but like in an artistic sort of way.
Yeah.
So I got into the idea of like mold making, and then I noticed like the company that sold the materials to make rubber molds and whatnot also sold the same sort of material you use for like special effects makeup, like for prosthetics and whatnot. And I was like, oh, from there got the idea to do life castings. Like you could take like someone's body part and turn them into a concrete statue. Like instead of going out here and building steps,
There's a market
I could
there.
do that
Yeah.
same sort of thing, but do it with a person and turn that.
And
into
you
a
can
statue.
specify how they bend and contort and
like you got a model for it.
what they represent. Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to get with you on that.
Yeah, so it's just like this like chain of ideas. Like, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if this?
Is it
what
that
if I threw
possible?
an electric river jam? Right?
Yeah, dude, come to the River Jam and make us a statue, and we'll have it there every year. we'll pay for it.
We can do that.
I will. How much? What is?
Film it.
What? Yeah, you could. He could film it going on. I mean,
We'll run it in fast motion. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like
that'd be sick.
like the time lapse sort of thing.
yes.
Yeah.
And what? Here, we're just gonna do this live. Well, not live, but recorded.
Spitballing live.
Yeah. What would the statue be, just right off top, right now, for the River Jam?
Oh, I don't know.
How could you
It's your
capture?
show, man.
How could you? How could you capture water moving?
Oh,
That's one of the good things about
Now-
being the interviewer, is that I'm really just asking you questions. That's what you said earlier, because you have a podcast. You're like, I'm not used to being on this end of it.
So okay, a lot of what I do is like taking stuff, and like the end result is usually in concrete. I've done a little bit of other stuff there with like plastic resins and whatnot. You
Okay.
can do some interesting watery looking stuff with that, but you can also
Epoxy or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can also do some really cool stuff with this thing they call fabric formed concrete, where instead of using like a plywood sort of frame, or instead of using like a mold, it's actually
Like mesh?
yeah, it's actually like a mesh,
Yeah.
and the concrete can push against it and like shape it kind of organically, and you can sew it in certain ways where it's like basically filling up a bag, but it's a bag you've pre-prepared to like stretch and sag in certain places. And like you see people, they'll make like stools that look like a bucket of paint that hit it and like spilled over the side, but it's all just
Still
like
a functional chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that stuff's done like that. And they'll do custom countertops that way, where like the counter just goes straight, and then the sink just kind of slips down into it, and it's just all one continuous slope.
Dude, I know.
All real weird, interesting
I
kind
know what I'd like then. Just a lightning bolt. Maybe, but you know how you could do that is, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But you can finish it in lots of cool ways too.
Like the pirate flag, you know, but with lightning bolts. And across, like,
That's a good idea.
The skull and lightning bolts.
Yeah, dude, that's actually, we could, but you're the guy making it, so we're of course, you know, the ideas come awful freely when you're not doing the work,
what
right?
if we did? Oh yeah, it's way easier to come up with an idea when you're not the one that has to make it.
I know, man. I always just wanted to be an idea man and just have unlimited resources to do these crazy things. And then, you know, with the River Jam, I was healthily surprised by the turnout. I wasn't sure how it was going to come out. I thought there was a good chance that I might be disappointed in the long run, but what I learned from that, and this is for everybody listening, and you probably know this as well, when you do stuff like that, nothing but good comes from it. Even if the event were to have failed and we weren't able to do it again the next year because of weather, COVID, whatever, man, I learned a lot. And not only that, but it gave me this like boost in my chi. You know, I don't know, call it what you want, but this like spiritual awakening realization that, because I'm a recovering addict, and I've been far down the hole. I've been in jail. I've done a lot of wacky shit, Tyler. But this like renewed my confidence in myself that I can actually do something that I love and is valuable for the community.
I was going to say confidence. I think whenever you try something like that and you have no idea what you're getting into and you just barrel through it anyway, like win, lose, or draw, at the end, you gain this confidence just in life to not be afraid to tackle something that you've never done before. Like, you know, like one way or another, I'll get out the other end.
It's like,
even if I don't know what it's going to happen, but I feel confident that I can get there. Yeah,
being assertive goes really far.
You ever ended like the what am I trying to think of? It's a philosophy kind of thing. Marcus Aurelius.
Oh yeah, I've read his
the Stoic philosophy.
Yeah, Stoics. Yeah.
I was really into that, and there was a quote that I cannot remember verbatim, but it was essentially, we often approach our fears like we approach our fears as though we're mortal. We approach like the things we want as though we're immortal. So like we'll put off the things that we want to do because we always think they'll be tomorrow. But then the things that we're afraid of will keep us from doing other stuff because we're afraid, well, God forbid I stand up in front of an audience and speak. That scares the crap out of me. I might die if I had to stand up and give a speech to somebody.
I've got an extreme advantage in that regard because I've been embarrassed so hard before that I know it's really not that bad.
That's to say, a lot of times it's the opposite. Like the things you want to do, you need to go do it because you're not always going to have the opportunity to do it. And a lot of times the things that scare you, like public speaking, for instance, it's not going to kill you. You can get through it. It still might be terrifying, but you'll make it.
Well, man, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Tyler, thank you for your time,
Thank you, man.
I look forward to working with you in the future on something or another. I'm sure we'll think of something. Guys, thank you. You can find Spectre. That's a group name on Spotify. We're going to put the link on him earlier in the show. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, Satellite XM. And I will put all the links to all the Conscious Effort Creative Studios in the description box. And make sure you come over to their website. You can go ahead and plug your stuff.
ConsciousEffortCreative.com. You can find everything we do there. We're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. All that's at Conscious Effort Creative. And if you feel so inclined, want to get a hold of us, send us an email. You can do that at consciouseffortcreative@gmail.com.
Right on. Great episode, man.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed it.
Hey, guys, have a great day. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Maybe hang on the couch for a minute. How you been? What's up? How's it living?